We have more for your ears only. I'm Catherine Herzog.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. I can't share the enthusiasm. These shoots are still very green. It was European Central Bank President Mario Draghi dismissing new optimism about the continent's economic recovery. Also last week at the G20 Summit of Rich Nations, they were encouraged to go slow in ending monetary stimulus as the U.S. Federal Reserve is planning, perhaps despite disappointing jobs gains reported last week and greater numbers no longer looking for work. Now this.
I also appreciate the president asking the Congress to support him in this action. This is something that the United States as a country needs to do.
I love Obama, and you'll never find a truer Democrat than me. But this whole idea of any president of the United States drawing lines saying that if any country does something that he considers wrong, that the nation is going to war, it's unheard of.
Syria's crossing of Barack Obama's red line on chemical weapons has led to a fracture of paralyzing party lines in Congress. Republican House Speaker John Boehner was one of several GOP leaders to back the president's proposed airstrike to deter and degrade Assad regime capabilities, though with little rank-and-file support. Harlem Congressman Charles Rangel was one of many Democrats led by conscience and constituents to oppose it.
The issue also promises to distract and delay attention from key domestic issues, including a threatened government shutdown over the funding of Obamacare, the level of other government spending, and a necessary rise in the federal debt ceiling, not to mention controversial immigration reform and a complex tax modification. To consider Washington's newest political dynamic and long-standing partisan gridlock, for your ears only, we're joined again by Thomas Mann, Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Governance Studies and co-author of the Basic Books bestseller, It's Even Worse Than It Looks, How the American Constitutional System Collided with the New Politics of Extremism, just out in an updated paperback edition. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, David. Delighted to be with you.
Given Obama's refusal to say he'll strike even without congressional approval, could there be a bit of political jujitsu involved, with the president always presuming that Democratic doubts and GOP opposition to almost anything he wants combining to delay or deter military action he doesn't really have his heart in, a sort of presidential Brer Rabbit pleading, please don't throw me in the briar patch called peace?
Well, that is a clever formulation, David, but I think it's too clever by half. If the president genuinely wanted not to intervene in Syria, the easiest way of doing that without doing real political damage to him and to the U.S. was simply to decide not to intervene. But I can tell you, I think he wants to win the votes, not lose them, and have the latter force him into his desired position.
Do you think support for Obama by Boehner and other interventionist Republican leaders is widening the gap between them and rank-and-file GOP members of Congress?
Well, for the good of the country, I'd say let's hope so. Because for the last couple of years, the Speaker Boehner really has become a waif amid his extreme conservative forces, led by the Tea Party members, which has forced him to take actions that he doesn't think are best for the party or for the country.
Many reviewers thought that your analysis of Republican extremism being the real core of the gridlock problem in Washington had a good deal to do with GOP defeats last year. Are you surprised that after the Democratic victories, extremism and obstructionism are, if anything, increased?
Yeah, the book we entitled It's Even Worse Than It Looks, now we think, gee, it's even worse than we thought. There were signs coming out of the election and words out of John Boehner's mouth of some willingness to take the outcome of the election, which, after all, produced a comfortable re-election for the president, a Senate holding for the Democrats, and a House where the Democrats won the national vote, of course, not the seats needed to regain the majority. So there's reason to think we'd get some different dynamic, and saw a little bit right at the beginning, but it really gave way to the reality that the House Republicans, frankly, have not a great deal of interest in the presidential politics. They are comfortable and in tune with their extreme activists, and they're under a lot of pressure from outside groups hovering around to deliver on the promises of their campaigns, and so things are at least as bad as they were before the election.
What impact on partisan gridlock do you see if Obama wins on a Syria strike or if he loses?
I don't think there's going to be much impact one way or the other. The fact is the politics of the Syrian strike authorization for force there has different politics than the whole domestic agenda of taxes and spending and the like. Republicans traditionally would have supported this move, certainly if a Republican president were in the office, but there is a new group of more neo-isolationist libertarian Republicans who are against it, but frankly, any issue that divides the Republican Party provides opportunities for potentially building coalitions on the domestic front. So that would be good, but I'm afraid the Republicans are too wedded to the agenda and the groups and activists and, frankly, rank-and-file Republicans who support it for it to matter one way or the other.
Some say that extremism will eventually sidetrack the GOP as a national party with a new libertarian coalition, as you suggest, of Republicans and conservative Democrats taking its place. We see that such bipartisan recombining also on the issue of government surveillance, privacy versus security. What do you think?
Well, David, first of all, I amended to say a coalition of the libertarian Republicans and liberal Democrats.
Well, that's true.
They're the ones who are really concerned about the use of force internationally, concerned about privacy and secrecy. You're absolutely right about that coalition forming, but I think there are limited opportunities for them. That's not the basis of a stable coalition because it completely leaves out the vast bulk of public policy, taxes, spending, regulation, where libertarians and liberal Democrats disagree intensely.
Thomas E. Mann is a Brookings Institution Senior Fellow in Governance Studies and co-author of the Basic Books bestseller, It's Even Worse Than It Looks, How the American Constitutional System Collided with the New Politics of Extremism, now in an updated paperback version.
Quote from the news, more bureaucracy is not synonymous with effective security. That was California's Republican Congressman Ed Royce, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, dismissing an independent panel's recommendation to increase diplomatic outpost security by establishing a new undersecretary to give the issue more prominence in policymaking circles.
Next, more on the battle over Obamacare at the grassroots for your ears only.